Mom kicked me out for her new husband, then begged for help when their business failed. I left them broke. My name's Jared, and I'm 25 now. But life started going off the rails way before this. It all began back when I was just an ordinary kid in school, thinking family was supposed to be a tight-knit team, always having each other's backs. Yeah, right. How naive was I? My mom, Linda, was always there for me. Sure, she'd yell at me for leaving socks around, but she helped me with school, cheered on my wild ideas, no matter how bizarre. I thought of her as more than just a mom, almost like a partner in crime. But then Ron entered the picture. Ah, yes, Ron, the local business hero and lone wolf who suddenly felt the urge to catch up with my mom. Oh, we're just old friends, she said when I started getting suspicious. Yeah, sure. This so-called friendship felt off, and I didn't understand why she'd throw away what we had for some guy with a plastic smile. But hey, teenage denial runs deep. Soon, the circus began. Weekend disappearances, midweek outings, it didn't matter. Every time she came home, it was like I was invisible. Hey, Jared, you can take care of yourself, right? She'd say when I naively asked for her help with my studies. Dude, I was in shock. Linda, my mom, was turning into a stranger. The caring mom who once nagged me now seemed like a hollow version of herself, her heart wrapped up in Ron's flashy new car and luxurious restaurants. Shopping became her new life purpose. And me? Well, I was suddenly an extra. I'll never forget the time I was 19 and came home after a late college class. I expected dinner, or at least a, hey, welcome back. Instead, I found my stuff packed by the door. With my backpack slung on my shoulder, I stared in disbelief until she walked in. Avoiding my gaze, she said, "You're an adult now, Jared. Time to find your own path." Like it was a line from a bad soap opera. Some family loyalty, huh? That's when I realized family had lost its meaning for her. She'd tossed me aside, an old accessory she didn't need in her glamorous new life. It felt like a punch in the gut, and I knew right then, our family was just an illusion. Landing on the streets was no cakewalk. Dark, cold, and lonely. I felt like a character in a bad movie. I thought this stuff only happened in books or TV shows, but there I was, standing in the pitch-black night, wanting to scream. Not that anyone would hear. I found a place on the edge of town. A home, only in name. This dilapidated place was more like a horror movie set. My neighbors looked like extras from a late-night crime show. One even kept trying to sell me special items, casually asking if I had friends who wanted something stronger. His bathroom looked like mold had established a kingdom there. Honestly, I left it alone. It could have its own ecosystem for all I cared. Eventually, I adjusted. A couple months later, I heard from a friend that my mom and Ron opened a cafe downtown. Guess who stole the spotlight? My mom shone like she'd won the lottery, with Ron posing next to her like some coffee baron, as if he was born holding a cappuccino. They threw this grand opening like it was Broadway. People were probably taking selfies thinking, wow, look at us in the trendiest new place. As I sat on my makeshift pallet bed, all I could think was, are you kidding me? Their so-called success was so fake, it didn't even deserve a comment. Mom was out there playing Cafe Queen, but she probably didn't even know how to make a basic Americano. And Ron? He looked more convinced of his success than of aliens. He'd poured tons of money into this so she could play the successful restaurateur. But I knew this royal act was just flimsy cardboard, waiting for a gust of wind to knock it down. Rumors started spreading soon after. Apparently, their cafe was a complete flop. Who could have guessed, right? Customers dropped in but quickly left. Sky-high prices, a tip-or-get-lost vibe, and waitstaff who looked like they were on work release from a horror movie. One customer said, "It's like a little slice of hell." And honestly, I felt a twisted satisfaction watching their empire crumble. I'm not one for revenge, but it was enlightening to see that even perfect parents can mess up big time. I quietly laughed, imagining my mom sitting alone among empty tables, finally realizing that not everything that glitters is gold. Time passed, and I almost forgot I had a family. Then, one evening, my phone lit up with her name. "Jared, can we talk?" She mumbled, sounding like she had a lump in her throat. Right away, I knew she didn't just want to talk. She needed help. The cafe was failing, debts were piling up, and she and Ron were drowning. She probably hoped her sweet Jared would forget everything and rush to the rescue, checkbook in hand. Oh, dear parents, who would have thought I'd be your only hope? I could barely hold back a laugh as I imagined their kingdom crashing down. Ron pawning his fancy suit on eBay, their high-end chairs going to the pawn shop. It was a satisfaction that even ice cream couldn't touch. Smiling to myself, I pictured them watching their whole world crack. She went on about family always being there for each other. I almost burst out laughing. This was the same woman who packed my things the minute I graduated? Family, huh? Funny coming from someone who wouldn't even sit down to dinner with me, because friends come first. Mom, I said calmly, like I was explaining algebra. I'd love to help, but, I'm barely scraping by. She paused, realizing I wasn't kidding, and her voice wavered in desperation. Honestly, I couldn't care less. Her attempts to squeeze out sympathy from me met nothing but a cold wall. She tried one last plea. Jared, you know I only wanted the best for you. I shook my head, barely holding back a bitter laugh. This whole "we've always been family" act sounded as fake as a clown reading Shakespeare. Finally, I cut her off. Mom, sorry, but no. I'm not about to throw my money into saving a business you didn't even care to build right. I knew it was a slap in the face. She thought her son, the one craving her love, would rush to save her. But you know what? She and Ron had the nerve to toss me aside when I was vulnerable. Now, I was more than ready to watch their house of cards fall apart. After that call, I couldn't help but watch their epic downfall. It was a sight to see. Their little empire collapsed so fast it was Hollywood-worthy. And there I was, enjoying every second of it. Debts soared, bills piled up, and their cafe became a ghost town with a couple of exhausted waiters who looked like they were on court-ordered community service. With each new rumor about their cafe, I smiled. A few weeks later, bam! The cafe was shut down. That was it. No more fake royal dinners or exclusive lunches. My mom and her dear Ron were left with nothing. The irony? They ended up where I'd started, rock bottom. In the end, they had to sell everything. Imagine people clinging to every last table and shabby piece of furniture, hoping it would somehow save their image. They moved to a dingy place on the outskirts, surrounded by the same kind of colorful folks I'd been around for years. Now they'd get a taste of mold-covered walls and neighbors who barely respected personal space. Welcome to reality, Mom. From what I hear, my mom's now a total outcast. The same people who once applauded her and patted her on the back have vanished. I even laughed, picturing her sitting in that silence, finally realizing that the world isn't all that kind. And it felt strangely good, like everything was finally in place. It was as if justice actually existed, and it knocked right at her door. For years I imagined feeling anger or satisfaction at this moment, but instead I felt only calm, peaceful, like I was finally free from everything she'd done to me. Now, I'm free. Free from her manipulation, free from her fake charm. Everything she put me through no longer stings. I feel better than ever because now I have something she never did: self-respect and independence.